Welcome everyone to the Carolina Outdoors. Hi, I'm Bill Barty, and each week we come in to talk about things to do in the Carolinas and people who are making things happen in the outdoors in the Carolinas. And occasionally we get a good story in there as well. Of course, here we are right now in April, and what a time to be in the Carolinas under normal circumstances, although we don't need to tell you again this week, we are not in normal situations and circumstances, but there's still a lot to celebrate being here where we live. Sitting right here to the left hand of your radio dial and my left hand as well, Mr. Wes Lawson, General Manager of Jesse Brown's, joins us. Welcome, Wes.
Hey, Bill, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, great to have you. Don Yeager on assignment, which means that he is either trout fishing or turkey hunting, or maybe a little bit of both. I do have it on good measure that the turkeys are still moving out there, having a good time. So if you're going to go wherever you may go, and of course we are talking a lot about the stay-at-home recommendations and rules that are out there, but we do know that some people are continuing to get out and do their outdoor activities, albeit safely. Those include the hunters out there. So if you're out there, be safe. But if you're also a mountain biker or a hiker, wherever you may be, if there's hunting in progress too, just to be aware and have your colors on. Turkey hunting, of course, is not as mobile or as dangerous oftentimes as we have with the rifles and that sort of thing. But we want people to continue being safe, whatever their pursuit is. Now, Wes, we talked a bit last week about getting outdoors during the pandemic, during the stay-at-home time, and celebrated the sport of camping backyard style.
Y'all did it last week. I want some tips and stories because we're doing it this weekend. Did you hear any turkeys roosting when y'all went out into the backyard? Into the back 40, I guess.
So let me talk a little bit about that. So I am fortunate enough to have parents that are on a farm, so they have enough property that the backyard is more than just, a quarter or 2/10 of an acre or that sort of thing. It's okay to go backyard camping in that as well. But we had a big enough, we were still in the backyard, but we were still far enough away that you could hear, and we could hear, the turkeys out there gobbling and roosting. And we were there long enough as well to have somebody come in that was turkey hunting next to us. So what does that mean? Well, that means that turkey hunter came out there with his decoys. He set them all up. I couldn't see all this because it was happening in the dark. But he set up all his decoys. He had his gobbler call. He had all of that. He had his hen calls. He had all of that going on, and that was at the end of my backyard camping trip. I was able to hear that hunter interacting with a big tom that I did find out later, after my campsite broke up, I did find out later that he got that big tom turkey.
Wow.
So there was a celebration for that particular turkey hunter anyway. But let me get back to my backyard camping trip. Many of you know, many of you don't know, that I have 4 children, and they come in a wide variety of ages. They go from 17 years old to 6 years old, and we went out there and picked out, as we recommended last week, a great camping site. Now, what does great camping site in the backyard mean? It means the same as a campsite anywhere. It's level, it's fairly soft, not a bunch of roots and twigs and boulders to set your tent up on. So we found a relatively flat place, picked it out, and set up our tent. Second thing that we did was made sure that we had a proper campfire area. So we didn't want to have a campfire running rampant or anything. So we picked a designated campfire, a safe distance away from our tent and camping area. So we set up our campfire. Because we were out in the country, we were able to have a campfire. If you're in town in your backyard, you may just do it with a grill, you may do it with a fire pit, you may not do it at all. So anyway, we found that tent site, set up our tent. That was rule number one. Second thing we did was get a campfire area, and then we built a fire. So we had taken our firewood out there, or camp wood out there. We did take it out there and started it up. And as mentioned before, I have 4 children. The mom did not come, even though it was just in the backyard. And we had a meal for 5. Now, come to find out that the 3 of the 5 of us were there for the food. So my 17, my 15, and my 12-year-old were strictly there, come to find out, for just 3 things. Number 1 was roasting hot dogs, having hot dogs out on the campfire, which we had our roasting forks out there, or many would say we had our clothes hangers out there untwisted with the hot dog jammed in between them. Of course, we had our buns and we had our potato chips, so they were out there for that. So we had a great campfire, and we had our roasted weenies out there and had a great dinner, campfire dinner.
So they showed up for the hot dogs, but they stayed for the...
Well, the second thing is also campfire related that they were there for, and that is s'mores.
Right.
Both of these are things that you can have pre-prepped, pre-prepared if you're going out in your yard. Again, you don't have to have a campfire. You do not have to have that, but we did fortunate enough to have that, and we had s'mores for dessert. Now, everybody knows what s'mores are, right?
I think so, but maybe they don't.
Graham crackers, marshmallows, and a Hershey bar, or parts of a Hershey bar. You roast the marshmallows up really good, and then you jam them on between the graham crackers and your candy bar, the chocolate, and that's your dessert.
If you want to be really messy but delicious, you could also do that. Put all those ingredients in tin foil, close it up, and essentially bake it just for a little bit. It's a mess, but it's delicious.
Definitely. You can definitely do that, and even let it sit after you do it, and then take it out there to your campfire, wherever you are. Apartment buildings, condo units, a house on a smaller lot. Do all of that for backyard camping. It is the end of spring break for many school districts in our area, so this is, for many people, the last chance. We'll get back to that. The third thing that my 4 children in entirety were out there for, after the hot dogs, roasting the weenies, that's the way Yankee people say it. The second would be
Why'd you look at me?
Cooking s'mores up. The third thing was a good ghost story.
Yeah.
Or spooky story. Now, we want to be sensitive to that because we don't want to warp anybody any more warped than they already are. But I had one in my pocket that I've told all my children over the years, and I was trying to prepare for this to tell you this story, but it's the story of the Molly Hugger, and I was able to tell it. So for everybody who wants to know the
we
Molly
can't hug
Hugger,
anymore, so that's going to get kind of scary.
well, we'll get back to that. That's one of the traditions we're going to talk about in a future segment here on the Carolina Outdoors. But the Molly Hugger, quickly, is the story of a circus that traveled by train, back, I guess, in the 20s or so, and they had all kind of animals. They had giraffes and elephants, and they had the zebras and all of that. The clowns were all on there, the trapeze people, but they also had one particular animal that was very strange. It was half human-like, in fact, they say, but the train had an accident, and these animals all spilled out And the community came together to bring all the animals back together. They recaptured them. They were all okay, and except for the mollyhugger. They never did find the mollyhugger. And many people ask, where did this animal, this weird creature, get its name? Well, in that area that the train accident happened, there was a family that lived there, nearby there, and one beautiful spring day, just like we're having these days here in the Carolinas, young Molly left her home to pick berries. And she was out there innocently picking berries when this mollyhugger creature jumped out and hugged Molly. In fact, hugged Molly so tightly that it killed her. And that creature is said to still wander the areas that this train accident happened. Where is this place? Well, it happens to be really nearby where you live, listening to the Carolina Outdoors. The end of the story involves a surprise which scares all the campfire visitors, which is code for my 4 children. Remember, 3 of them had heard this story multiple times, but I also had a 6-year-old out there who was completely frightened, but not totally warped. Anyway, we told that story. It's funny though, because after that story was told, we did enjoy the sky, and I encourage you to get out wherever you are. If you're listening to us via the airwaves of WBT Radio, you're up early enough to enjoy a Carolina dark sky with the glistening lights, although we have light pollution these days, but you can enjoy crystal clear views of the sky. So we enjoyed that past dark. And then my 3 older children left us. Their time there was done. So who finished it out but the dad and the 6-year-old who had been scared to death 30 minutes before? And we made it through the night, finished off by the morning, and the turkey hunter who came in to the property next door to us, and I got to listen to him call in a big old tom turkey.
It's a pretty good camping trip. Now, do you know that ghost stories are one of the oldest genres of story ever recorded? In fact, the first ghost story shows up in the Epic of Gilgamesh, of course, the oldest story out there.
Now hold on to that, because we can come back after the break, second segment, and learn a little bit more about this Gilgamesh and the birthplace, if you will, of some of the oldest stories told are ghost stories. So gather by this campfire wherever you are. We're the Carolina Outdoor Guys from Jesse Brown's. Wes and Bill will be back with more after this.
Somebody's knocking at the door.
Somebody's knocking. Would you let them in? That was